Hello there! What's up, nerd? My name is Simon, this is the Casual Audiophile channel, and I've got something for you today. This is the S12 from an IEM from the brand now named Letshuoer, which used to be named Shuoerly, which was a much better name, but here we are. This is the Letshuoer S12, and this is a planar IEM, which has gone down in price significantly. It came out at like $180 last year, and now it's down all the way to $130, and I don't even think it's sale. It sits at this price. So there has been a lot of planar IEMs coming out recently, starting with the Timeless last year, then came the S12, and then we've got like the Tin P1 Max, we've got the Raptor Hooker, we've got so much stuff, we've got the Critical Dioko. So let's revisit one of the originals. I got sent this set for review by the audeos.pl store, so shout out to them. I do not get to keep the review unit. I am sending it back right after I finish filming this video, so just a heads up, they have not paid me or influenced me or did anything to change my opinion about this set. So yeah, I'm just gonna briefly tell you how does this set sound in like the more objective way. Then we'll jump, if you find it interesting, we'll jump into my the unboxing, build, fit and finish, stuff like that. And then we'll talk more about the sound, deeper and more subjectively, because let's face it, this hobby is pretty subjective. So let's start with the objective stuff. The S12 is definitely a V-shaped IEM. It's got heaps of bass. The elevation is quite large, but even though the graph shows it having a lot of mid bass, to my ears it really does not. It's mostly isolated to the sub bass and does not bleed into the mid-range at all. The mid-range itself is very recessed, like you would on a V-shaped set, but surprisingly neutrally tuned. And it's not warm, it's not analytical, it's just about perfect actually when it comes to the tuning. And the treble, well, the treble is definitely the weakest part of this set, because it is both elevated and sometimes sharp. So that's one con I will immediately tell you about this set. If you are very treble sensitive, maybe skip this one, but it's not that bad actually. I will talk about it in the rest of the review, how does the treble actually sound to my ears, but it is sharp, but it's not unbearable, let's just say. And the standout feature of this IEM is of course due to the planar driver, which is an amazing new technology. I mean new, it's been in headphones for a long time, but I guess there's been planar IEMs in the past, but they have all sucked. And yeah, and now we're finally getting planar IEMs that sound like planar headphones, which is exciting, because the technical performance on this bitch is just nutty. Like, I swear to fuck, like, you're not going to find a better technical performer under $200, definitely not. Under $300, maybe there's something, but under $200, this is by far one of the most technical IEMs. Rivals even my favorite one, which, if you know me, you know what it is. But if you're here for the first time, you'll have to wait to the comparison sections. Alright, I'm gonna yeet myself off to my table and talk to you about like the fit and finish, build quality, accessories, all of that stuff. And then we'll jump deeper into the sound and into comparisons, because, you know, this shit that I just said, like, it's like the most generic descriptions ever, right? But you don't know how it really sounds unless you've got a comparison. Compared to what, right? So I'm gonna compare it to quite a few sets. Actually, let's just spoil it right now. I'm gonna compare it to the CCA CRA, because even though the CRA is a much cheaper set, I think this might be like the kind of like straight up upgrade over the CRA. I'm going to compare it to the Moondrop Starfield, which is one of the most popular sets in the $100 to $150 price range. Starfield instead of Aria, because that's what I have. I just prefer the looks on the Starfield, and I think it sounds a bit better than Aria, just a bit. But anyway, and the last one I'm going to compare it to is my personal favorite IEM in the under $300 price range, the Final Audio A4000, which is also a bright, sort of V-shaped IEM with great technicalities, so we'll see how they stack up. Anyway, I've been rambling on with this intro long enough, so let us just go right over there. Okay, so welcome at my table. It's beautiful, isn't it? Anyway, starting off with the box. I already unpacked pretty much everything that's inside, but I just want to mention the box in which the S12s come in. It's pretty handsome, so there's that. Nothing special inside, but the outer box is pretty nice. So, when it comes to accessories, the S12 comes pretty well packed. First of all, it features a fantastic cable. Like, this has got to be one of the best included cables with any IEMs ever. It includes that Velcro strap, which I don't know why companies keep doing it. It's not very useful, but fine. Okay, so the behavior of the cable is awesome. Like, you can just lay it down, besides this part for some reason, but the rest of the cable you can just lay it down and it just stays in place. It's pretty perfect. It road wraps really easily, and when you do road wrap it, it just stays in place perfectly, which is quite a feature these days. It's lovely, to be honest. Like, and the cable comes in a 4.4 balanced connector stock. Apparently you can also get it with a 3.5 connector, but here all I found was the 4.4 one, which is sad because I don't really have any 4.4 sources I can use it with besides my Zen DAC, but that's on my desktop, and I don't really use IEMs at the desktop, so mostly I had to use different cables because sadly Shuoer does not give you an adapter with the S12, so that's a ding, but overall fantastic cable. Oh, sadly the chin cinch is just useless. It's a piece of plastic that slides around the cable and doesn't stay in place, which is like, why even bother? But okay, whatever. When it comes to tips, you get a decent selection. You get 3 different kind of tips. You get those standard black ones, which are pretty nice to the touch and giving a really good seal. I've got the mediums on. You get, of course, large, medium, small. You also get those clear ones, which I'm not a big fan of. They're pretty stiff. They look nice, but yeah, they're quite stiff and I don't like how they feel. And you do get, in this nice case, a set of foam tips, also small, medium, large, so quite the selection, and I think everybody will be able to fit them without getting aftermarket tips. You still might want to get some aftermarket tips for, you know, tuning the sound a little bit, but that's besides the point. They do sound quite, those fit quite fantastically. And yeah, the last accessory you get in the package is this case, which honestly, the shape is nice and it looks quite good, but the material is very cheap. This is definitely not leather. This is not even trying to be leather. It tries to look like leather maybe, but yeah, it's really cheap feeling in the hand, which is unfortunate because the rest of the accessories are so good. VEZen and BTR5 not included in the package, just place them here for aesthetics. So there's that. But yeah, the accessories included with the S12, definitely a plus. I mean, the case, as cheap as it feels, it is very practical, so I don't mind it at all. So yeah, there's that. Accessories, done. Next, looks. When it comes to looks, I honestly really like how the S12 looks, and that's surprising to me, because I did not like it when I saw it in pictures and videos, because I really don't think that videos and pictures do not show you like how well does it actually, like, this is a really nice aluminium shell that feels fantastic in the hand. The build quality is just great. I like how it's I like how this connector fits. It looks kind of goofy but kind of cool. Overall, I like the looks of this set. It's not my favorite for sure, but it looks alright. So yeah, passes the looks test. Will not look too weird when you use it on the street. And as for the fit, I found them quite easy to get a seal with, comfortable and secure. They're not too large. I mean, there's definitely some earlets in this hobby which will still find them too large, right? But for most people, it should fit quite comfortably. And in fact, let me just demonstrate how it fits for me, because, you know, I've got those monster ears, and don't mind the camera. Just bear with me, okay? Yeah, I am known for having huge ears, so for me, it fits like this, kind of small, but really comfortable, stays in place, and I did get a seal with just this little maneuver, didn't even have to fiddle with it, so when it comes to fit, I've got no complaints against the S12. Let me roll the wrap it once again, just so you see how glorious this cable is. And yes, I just knocked the tips. Fuck you, tip. You're staying there. Yeah, just a wonderful cable. I really wish Shuoer did sell this one, but apparently they do not. I contacted their representative and he said, well, I mean, he wishes they could sell it, but the logistics are just not there, which, understandable. Have a nice day. Anyway, just beautiful cable. I can't stop gushing over it. Well, now, with all of those aspects covered, do I also gush over the sound? Well, I mean, kinda. I kinda do, to be honest. But I don't have only positive things to say about it. There's some good, some bad. So let's start with the bass. When it comes to the bass, the quantity, especially in the sub bass, is a bit much for my taste. To the point where, you know, this could not be my only IEM. But, disclaimer, I do not love a ton of bass in my IEMs, so your mileage may vary. For most people, I think this is a tasteful amount of bass. This is not Raycon, this is just a lot of bass, right? You know, just mainstream kind of tuning, maybe a bit more than the, like, you know, mainstream kind of tuning. But what I found is that it is lacking warmth in the bass. So like, even though on the graph you will see that the mid bass is also elevated, just like the sub bass, I found this a characteristic that's kind of like inherent to planar drivers, not so much in IEMs because I didn't try many of them, but definitely in headphones. If you watched my Hi-Fi Man Sundara review, despite it being a horrible slideshow, you will know that I had the exact same problem there. You cannot get the Sundara to sound warm no matter how much you try, and it's kind of the case with the S12. So if you like, you know, warm, lush bass that just envelops you like a blanket, that's not what you get here. Planar bass is just too fast to give you that effect, which, you know, can be good or can be bad depending on your taste, or depending on the music you're listening to, right? And yeah, but the bass is just very clean. It does not bleed into the mids at all. This is like a great characteristics of the planar drivers. It's just so clean, so fast. But what I found surprising, because you got two kinds of planar drivers, right? You got the ones with double-sided magnets, which is like the old school technology, which is what Odyssey, Final Audio use, and those have got really strong punchy bass, right? But then you've got the single-sided magnets, which have their own advantages, right? And this is what Hi-Fi Men use, for example. And those do not have strong bass. Those are like the opposite. Those are quite weak in the punch and slam department. And this is apparently a double-sided driver. Now, I was skeptical because, like, you know, it's an IEM. How much air can a driver like this really move? And I was surprised to find out that, like, it is a proper double-sided magnet planar driver. It's got just really strong rumble, not so much punch, but still enough when the song calls for it. And it's got really fast, really quick attack. Like the sound in general, not just the bass, but sometimes also the mids, is quite physical, which I love. This is my favorite characteristic of planar headphones with double-sided magnets, like the Odyssey LCD X or the Final Audio D8000 Pro, that you get like really physical sound. And the S12 does it. I love that. The texture in the bass is also very good. Like you've got a lot of texture to the bass. It's not just like one note, right? And you don't just get like the, you know, initial tone and then nothing. You get a lot of texture to stuff like bass guitars, kick drums, electronic bass especially. The only little nitpick I have when it comes to the S12's bass is, well, it's the resolution. It's not bad by any means. It is a very fast bass, but like on some very busy passages in songs like, for example, A Tout le Monde by Megadeth or Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force, it can meld a little bit with different bass notes, slightly, but it's worth mentioning that the resolution is not perfect. It's way better than it has any right to be at the price, but it is decidedly not perfect. So, you know, important to know that, I feel like. Okay, moving on to the mid-range. The mids are, as I said in the intro, recessed, but very neutral. Neither warm nor clinical, which is bonkers. Like the male vocals, especially. Vocalists like Mark Knopfler, who else did I listen to? Johnny Cash, Tom Waits. They just sound so good. Guys like Mike Shinoda, Chester Bennington, even with his high pitched vocal, so good. Female vocals: Emmylou Harris, Ariana Grande, Nina Nesbitt, Macy Peters. They all sound pretty good. Not as great as the male vocals, but still pretty good. Nice focused. Not, definitely not colored in any way. I like that a lot about the S12. Now, when it comes to detail retrieval in the mids, it is quite awesome. As we will get to in the comparisons, it's got really good detail retrieval in the mids. Competitive with much more expensive sets. Like, I swear to God, this is very close, if not just as good as the Moondrop Blessing 2, which costs like twice as much money. And it's not as good as the Ibasso AM05, but it's almost there. That's crazy. For this price, it's absolutely nuts. It's got more detail in the mids, which we will get to in the comparisons, than the Final Audio A4000, which is already a crazy detailed set. So just detail retrieval completely bonkers on the S12. Now, when it comes to the timbre, it is, decidedly a planar timbre. The instruments have fast attack and fast decay. They never last like a millisecond longer than the song demands. Which, some people may love it, right? I personally really like it. Really like the planar timbre. It's very clean, very fast, right? But, I can see some people preferring like the more warm, the more analog timbre that something like dynamic drivers, or even, well-tuned balanced armatures can give you, which, a planar will never sound as natural as a dynamic driver. This is just not what planars are supposed to do. They're supposed to sound amazing. They're not supposed to sound natural. That would be my description. And it certainly does sound amazing on the S12. So, timbre, acquired taste, I like it. So there's that. Texture in the mids is good. Not as good as in the bass, but still very good. When you got like gravelly vocals, you really do hear like the texture in those vocals. So no complaints there. The body is above average. I would say it's not, very thick, of course, but it is sometimes actually slightly thin, but it's not bad. Like, it's, slightly above average for IEMs, right? So that's okay. It's not the best characteristic of the S12, but it's fine. Now the resolution is very good. I find it better in the mid-range than in the bass. It is able to resolve BC passages even on poorly mixed songs. So even on poorly mixed songs, right? For example, Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force. Not a very good song when it comes to mixing, but the S12 does not struggle with that song at all. I mean, in the bass a bit, but with the mid-range, it's really good. Now, the treble, this is like the part that kind of disappointed me on the S12, especially since there's so much of the treble. I hope it will be good, but it's okay. It's not bad. It's just, it's very elevated and it has good extension. Okay, nice. But the tuning is just not that good. The instruments like hi-hats, cymbals, they do not sound correct. They lack body. They just there's something off about them. They just decay way too quickly. I don't like them on this set. Just it is what it is. Now, the treble is also sometimes sharp. There is a resonance peak that will be okay for some people, maybe most people, but for some people who just, have ears that are particularly sensitive in that area, it might be unbearable, honestly. So definitely I said that you should demo before you buy. Now, detail in the treble, very good, right? Like, as it is with this set, the detail retrieval is just kind of crazy overall. But yeah, as I said, the instruments are lacking body, so there's that. Now, when it comes to the rest of the stuff, like presentation, soundstage, imaging, separation, soundstage is slightly above the average for IEMs when it comes to width, so it can go a tiny bit outside of error. Like, imagine this is the head, right? The soundstage ends like right here. It's not wide, but it's above average for IEMs. IEMs in general, except, certain sets that are specifically engineered to have a good soundstage, do not sound very wide, so it is what it is. But there is very good separation between left, right, center. There is quite a bit of depth to the soundstage, and there's even some verticality, like very slight, but there is some verticality to the soundstage, which most IEMs do not do well. The imaging though is not very precise. Like you've got the approximate location of the instrument in space, but like not the. Wait, I'll just lower the microphone because it looks to be picking a little bit. Okay, should be better now. Anyway, yes, so I lost my train of thought. Yes, the imaging is just not very precise. It's not like laser focused like some sets can do, right? The separation though is insane. When resolution doesn't hinder it by melding instruments, like when sometimes happens in the bass, right? But when the resolution can keep up, this separation is just absolutely insane on the set. Like when it resolves the different instruments, they are separate. They do not meld into each other, which is just it's great. I love planar drivers for their separation, and the S12 does that as well as any other planar driver. It's just amazing. So, and especially if you know me, separation is something I look to quite a lot because I listen to a lot of like rock and metal music that does benefit a ton from the separation. So I'm really happy that the S12 does that well. Alright, so before we wrap up the review, let's do some comparisons, because it's all fine and dandy in a vacuum, but how well does it compare to other sets? So let us find out, shall we? Okay, we'll move this to the side. This can go away. Okay, fine. Let's do it like this. And we'll bring our first challenger, I mean, not really, the CCA CRA. Now, you would expect those sets to be in a completely different league, judging by the fact that the S12 is like 10 times more expensive. And they are, just, not gonna sugarcoat it, but I still compare them on a few songs. And how I do those comparisons is I try to listen to 5 songs on each set, right? I change the songs between like the different comparisons just to not get bored, but I try to do like a pop song with some just focused on vocals, but with some sub bass, right? To judge how it performs on a pop song. I try to do some rap. I try to do a more vocal and acoustic focused song in the middle. Then I did a song that I know benefits a lot from good imaging, just to test the imaging between those two sets. And at the end, I listened to a rock or metal song that just requires really good separation and resolution, just to see how those sets perform in those particular ways, right? So, with the CRA and the S12, I listened to "This Is On You" by Macy Peters' first song, and well, the comparison is quite simple. Just the S12 has a much more cleaner presentation. The treble is less piercing than on the CRA, so if you can't stand CRA's treble, you'll be fine with the S12 most likely. Bass is a little bit less in comparison, especially the mid bass. CRA does have a lot more mid bass to the ear, but the S12 just separates sounds much better. Now, the second song was Rap Devil by Machine Gun Kelly. Like the S12 just showcases the intricacies of the beat much better, just has more detail and way better separation. Bass is definitely more isolated to the sub bass on the S12, but it is more textured. It trembles more, but surprisingly, the CRA actually punches better. So there's that. And Machine Gun Kelly's vocals sound very realistic with great tonality on the S12. Next song was Wait For Her by Roger Waters. On the S12, the vocal tonality was completely neutral. Just Waters' vocal just sounded amazing. On the CRA, it was definitely warmed up when it comes to the tonality. And of course, the S12 had much better separation of instruments. It had quite decent soundstage. The piano was like about 5 to 10 centimeters outside my head, which was pretty good. It's like definitely above average for IEMs. The timbre was definitely more natural than the CRA, which is weird because this is a dynamic, but just so good. But it does exhibit that planar character, which you will love or hate depending on who you are. Next song was, well, to not offend anybody, it was a cover of Gentlemen of African American Descent in Paris by Kanye West by the Vitamin String Quartet, which was like a a string-based cover of a rap song, and there is just no comparison. S12 much more detailed in the instruments, has a wider soundstage, better depth, really good imaging, and one thing that I found weird is the S12 does have a little bit of verticality, but the CRA actually had a little bit more than that, so that was interesting. And also the treble was a bit more annoying on the S12 on this specific song. And the last song was Strangers, which is a new song by Bring Me the Horizon, and no contest better on the S12. CRA does have slightly better tonality for that song because it is warmer, and metal songs generally do benefit from warmth. The S12 felt a bit more clinical, but this song and metal music in general benefits heavily from a resolving set, so yes, the S12 did that better. So in conclusion, the S12 is almost the perfect upgrade for the CRA. You do lose a little bit of warmth, even compared to the CRA, which is not a very warm V-shape to start with, but a trade-off I'm willing to make. I would definitely take the S12 over the CRA, and if you do have a CRA and you love it, this is probably the best upgrade you can make for $150. Alright, next comparison was pretty much the most direct competitor to the S12, and the Final Audio A4000. So the songs I listened to with those two sets, I'll move the CRA here for the time being. The songs I listened to with those two sets were Lights Up by Harry Styles, Killshot by Eminem, Bother by Stone Sour, Welcome Home Sanitarium by Apocalyptica, and A lmao by Megadeth. So starting with Lights Up by Harry Styles, bass is definitely more dynamic on the A4000, but there is more bass on the S12, and the S12 does have better texture. Now, S12 presents instruments in a different way. It's more obviously separated, like the separation between instruments feels better on the S12, even though the A4000 is already known for very good separation. The resolution is a bit better on the A4000. It does handle busy passages in songs better, but the S12 does separate those sounds more when if they are resolved. And I'm sorry for the construction noises outside the window, but there's really nothing I can do about it right now, so you'll have to bear with it. Now, next song, Killshot by Eminem. Eminem's vocal is actually more accurate on the S12. It is a bit more, lush warm on the A4000, but yeah, the S12 is definitely more neutral when it comes to representing Eminem's vocal in particular. Now, beat is more satisfying on the A4000, just, sounds more natural. Sample is more detailed on the S12, but S12 has some sibilance, while A4000 does not. And it appears I need to pause the video because it started lagging. Let me do that. Okay, and we're back. Hopefully it will be better now. So, coming back. A4000 is not sibilant, it's not sharp, while the S12 can be. So there's one advantage to the another advantage to the A4000. Bass is a bit too much on the S12, while it's just perfect on the A4000. Both have a very open presentation, maybe a touch more on the S12, but the A4000's treble is more pleasant, so back and forth on this song. Okay, next one. It's Bother by Stone Sour. S12 does present the organs in the background definitely more forward. Guitar plucks are also more apparent on the S12. Vocals are better tonally but more recessed into the mix. A4000 just puts the vocals quite a bit forward when compared to the S12. And those overdubs, which is like the background vocals or the backup vocals, are more obviously separated on the S12 again. But the A4000 has a more natural timbre to the electric guitars. And yeah, next song was Welcome Home Sanitarium by Metallica, by Apocalyptica covering Metallica, rather. And on this song, A4000 is much wider when it comes to the soundstage, but it is almost always outside of your head. S12 definitely has less width, less depth, less verticality, but it can place sounds inside of your head, so depends on what kind of presentation you like more. Detail in lower pitched instruments favors the S12, while higher pitched instruments do sound similar or more detailed on the A4000. And when it comes to like those really busy passages, the resolution on the A4000 is just the next step above the S12. Last song for those two was A Tout le Monde by Megadeth, and Dave Mustaine's vocal is no contest. It is much better on the A4000. Just sounded more warm, natural, just how it is supposed to sound, in my opinion. Electric guitars definitely sounded better on the S12 though. I prefer bass guitars on the A4000. S12 can make them sound very good, but can also make them hollow. So in conclusion, those two are obviously very back and forth. The S12 does some things better, while the A4000 does other things better. So yes, I am really happy that there's finally something in the under $300 price bracket that competes with the A4000 for technicalities. I would say the A4000 is definitely smoother and more pleasing for daily use, while S12 is great if you're doing like focused listening and really getting into your music. I prefer the A4000 overall, but the S12 is a great alternative if you prefer something a bit more V, and I will definitely pause the recording for now because I feel my MacBook overheating a little bit, so I'll be back in what it will be to basically a second with the Starfield. Okay, I am back. Now, I forgot one important thing during the unboxing. In the box, you also get some snacks, so that's nice. At least you won't go hungry while listening to your new IEM, which is good, because you probably spend your lunch money on it. So, yeah. Nice. Thank you, Shuoer. Very cool. Anyway, last comparison will be to the Moondrop Starfield. If I can only get the cursor on the screen in the... one bit. What's going on? Okay, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. So, the last comparison will be the Moondrop Starfield. And now, for this comparison, I also used 5 songs, just like for the previous ones. So, the first song that I tried was If This Is Goodbye by Mark Knopfler and Emmylou Harris. So, the vocal of Mark Knopfler on the S12 is just about perfect. It's just, you know, just a wonderful tonality. I also do prefer Emmylou Harris's voice on the S12, but just slightly. So those two IEMs are very different. The Starfield is a warm, vocal-focused set, while S12 is, you know, a more traditional V-shaped set, right? But on this track, actually, because there is not a lot of sub-bass, it does sound a bit more neutral. Weirdly enough, there is of course a slight bass boost coming through sometimes in like the lowest notes, but yeah. So just a funny finding that I had. Also, the electric guitar is so much more engaging on the S12, as is pretty much the entire presentation. There is some hints of verticality on the S12, while the Starfield does not have the slightest hint of verticality in it. So next song was Tokyo 2020, Taco Nafida and Quebo Nafida and Taco Hemingway. Bass hits way harder on the S12. It is much faster, has better texture. Now the Starfield puts vocals forward and uses the bass as a background for them, while the S12 puts vocals and the beat on pretty much the same level. And the S12's ability to just throw all the sounds at you is really impressive on this song, because Starfield is way less resolving. Next song was The Kill, live by 30 Seconds to Mars, and the strumming of guitar strings was so much crispier on the S12 with better timbre to boot, and vocals do sound so good on the S12. The amount of detail is also insane. It's just like no contest. I would definitely take S12 for this song. Next song was Robot Boy by Linkin Park. Now the piano had a much more realistic timbre on the S12. And the comparison is not even funny when it comes to separation. S12 feels like, you know, an 80 square meters living room in a huge mansion, while the Starfield just feels like a tiny stuffy basement in comparison. But it does have, curiously enough, slightly better imaging than the S12. I'm just going to show you the pattern on the Starfield, because I just think it's a beautiful IEM. And the last song I used was Leader of Men by Nickelback. Now, the bass guitar was so much more tactile on the S12, and for rock music, I think this choice is just so easy. Like, okay, Starfield is a very nice, pleasant sound that you can relax to, but the S12 gives this kind of music the resolution it needs, the excitement it needs. So, yeah, much prefer the S12 for rock and metal. So in conclusion, as pleasant as the Starfield's tonality is, the S12 is just so much more technically impressive. Starfield's warm vocal focus tonality is nice. It's like kind of the opposite of the S12, so I don't think it's a stupid idea to have both of those in a collection, but if I could only have one, I would definitely choose the S12. Alright, so now that we've done with the comparisons, let's just rank those in a couple of ways, because I find this an interesting way to compare stuff. My favorite way, probably. So the first thing we will rank, and this is entirely subjective because this is just my preference, is the tonality of those IEMs. I would put the A4000 first still, because it's just smooth but engaging. Then I would put the Starfield and S12 about on the same level, because this one is engaging and this one is smooth, but neither of them do both really well. And CRA last, because it's just, you know, it's a well-executed V-shape, but I just don't like V-shape, so there's that. When it comes to accessories included in the box, I would probably keep them in the same order. Now, the S12 does come with like the nicest cable, but the A4000's cable is just really functional. I didn't like it at first, but it just behaves so well, and it's like so convenient. It never like kinks up, it never tangles, which is a huge plus in my book. I would put the Starfield a bit lower, although no, actually I would put it a bit lower. Now, both the S12 and the and the A4000 come with some very good tips. The A4000 comes with, let me just grab them. Yeah, Final Audio's just awesome A4000 E-type tips, which are just great, but curiously enough don't work too well on the A4000 for sound purposes. And the case that the A4000 comes with is this rubber case, which is just so convenient. You just pop the IEM inside, close it, and it takes like no space in your pocket. It's just so thin. It's the best IEM case of all time when it comes to usability, right? Because that's the thing about the A4000. Its accessories aren't flashy, because I much prefer the look of the S12 case, but the usability is so much better on this one. And Starfield, it has a nice cable and a really nice case, but I put it a bit lower because the case is awesome, by the way, but I put it a bit lower because the tips are garbage. And the CRA, you get a decent cable, decent tips, and no case. So obviously this one is $15, so don't expect much. Next thing now, when it comes to coming back to sound, oh yeah, and looks, I would say when it comes to looks though, I would definitely put the Starfield first, then the CRA, and then those two at the end. Neither of them are ugly, but they are just much less interesting than whatever CRA has going on, or especially whatever the Starfield has going on. Okay, back to sound though, technical performance. I would say when it comes to the bass in general, like how punchy it is, how rumbly it is, how resolving it is, I would put those two first. They're about tied. Actually, when it comes to bass, I might... No, they are tied. And then the Starfield is curiously the last. Like, the bass resolution on this one is bad. The dynamics are bad. The tuning is so nice, but the technical performance is just worse than the CRA, which is embarrassing, but hey. Now, next thing, I would say, when it comes to the mid-range, detail retrieval, and so on, I would say they would be like this. And again, I prefer the tuning of the Starfield to the CRA, but the CRA is more resolving, and I prefer the tuning of the A4000 to the S12, but the S12 just squeezes in so much more detail than the A4000 even, so it goes first. Treble, now this, I would say, goes like this. Now, the A4000 treble is just fantastic. It is the best treble you can get in an IEM without spending $300 or more. It's just awesome. Actually, probably one of the best treble IEMs under $4,000, for $500 even. Starfield's treble, it's not great, but it's not actively shit. And I feel like the S12's treble just sometimes is shit, and the CRA's treble just very often is shit. Now, presentation, soundstage, separation, things like that. Imaging, I would put it like this. A4000, just killer resolution, very wide soundstage, laser precise imaging. S12, close, but the soundstage is less impressive and the imaging is less precise, so it goes here. Starfield actually has better imaging than the S12, but the separation and soundstage are even worse. Soundstage is even worse, the separation is just nowhere near as close. And the CRA, it actually has better separation than the Starfield, but Starfield has much more precise imaging, so there's that. Okay, now that I'm done comparing all of those, how would I actually rate the S12? Now, as you may know, I use two rating systems. First one is a tier list that I have, which I will not show you right now because I'm recording on my MacBook instead of my PC, as I always do. Unless I do a thing. My tier list is basically, it is sound only. It does not take comfort, value, anything else into consideration. It's literally just the sound. And it goes from S, which are the best IEMs out of the best IEMs, or headphones, because I don't separate them, and then all the way down to F tier, which is just unlistenable. I would put the S12 very high up in B tier. It is just an amazing little IEM, and as I put in my notes in my tier list, a very resolving set with good overall tuning. If you don't need the vocals to be the focus of a song, I do, so that's why it's not higher. It is a good upgrade from the CRA, which I even mentioned right here. Right. So yeah, judging the S12 purely on sound, I definitely have to put them in B tier, which means that it's really bloody good. And the second rating system I use is a star rating system from 1 to 5 stars, which, takes into consideration things like value, fit, comfort, accessories, and stuff like this. And I started thinking the S12 is going to be a 3-star set. And sometimes I debated giving it 5 stars just for the insane resolution for the price. But in the end, I settled on a 4-star rating. Just can't give it 5 stars in good conscience because the treble can be too sharp, and even if it weren't, the quality of the treble is just not that good. But a 4 stars is a very respectable rating. Just means that it is one of the best IEMs that you can get at the price. It is just fantastic, especially if you listen to like a lot of rap music, electronic music, even rock and metal just plays super well on this set. It is very versatile actually. And yeah, should you buy it? I genuinely think it is not a good buy. Like, I just a disclaimer, I'm sending this back right after finishing the review, right? But I am tempted to buy this one. Just my financial situation right now does not allow me to just buy a set after set, and I already own the A4000, so I'm not gonna buy the S12, at least for now. I want to check out some of more planar IEMs before buying one, because this technology has a lot of potential. And if I had $150 to spend on an IEM and I didn't already own so many of them though, I would still choose the A4000, because it's just a more pleasing tonality to my ears, and the technical performance is, I would say overall, not as good as the S12, but so close that the better tuning does just slightly edge it over for me, especially also the fact that it is just a tiny bit cheaper than the S12, unless the S12 goes on sale. So yeah, overall, fantastic set. I recommend it a lot. If you like a V-shape, if you have the CRA and want an upgrade, definitely get the S12. It is just a wonderful set. Yeah, so there's that. I think I'm done for today. So I would very kindly ask you to fuck off. Why are you still here? Eh? Good things to do. Just sort of, eh? Just kidding. Do like all the YouTube stuff, like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments section how do you like my format of reviews? Because I know they can get a little bit long, but I'm trying to be really thorough with my reviews. But you know, I understand not everyone wants to watch a 40-minute long video on an IEM, right? So let me know in the comments if you made it to the end, right? Just if you think I should keep the format that I have right now, or if I should make it shorter, or anything, any suggestions you have, just shoot them in the comments below. I'm just learning how to do this YouTube thingy. So yeah, anyway. Now that I've finished my YouTube disclaimer stuff, fuck off. I got things to do. See ya.